We shall go back
to the interpretation.
We shall go close to, and if you want to make amendments, we change. That's why I leave it until the end. I'll put the question that clause 57 do stand part of the bill. Those in
Chair, Madam Chair, just a minute. I seek your indulgence, Madam Chair. It appears like government is really committed to downsizing on the number of boards and authorities, commissions, and all of that, to the extent that we see now, being joined or rejoined. Madam Speaker, maybe from the minister could be in a position to really give valid justification for Uganda Mental Health Advisory Board, because I'm saying that, Madam Chair, that tomorrow we'll be faced with another bill. Are we really again going to have within that bill an authority or advisory board? Yeah, I'm just wondering, because we already have a medical council or dental practitioners, and those are clustered in terms of departments and disciplines. Madam Speaker, maybe the chair, the minister is in a position really to lay my fears whether, because I don't specifically see a valid justification of a mental health advisory board. Advising who? And what would be the scope?
Minister,
yes.
Minister,
thank you, Chair.
What's your position?
Madam Chair, the other day, a few days ago, the laboratory bill was kicked out of this House because of the element of the board, something about the board. Now, at the same time today, in a New Vision and in modern newspapers, all of them clearly define that the government of Uganda decided to downsize and merge and scrap other agencies and boards. Some boards say, whatever, MDS. Now, I'm now worried, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, that if we maintain this, tomorrow we might be actually stepping a red line. That's why, for me, in my view, we would actually put this thing within the Ministry of Health to address the matters to deal with this area, other than us creating another board. Because not only we're going to have more problems before the law comes into effect. I thank you.
No, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I think we need to look at issues differently. When we are talking about the Mental Health Advisory Board, it is different from what members are talking about. What we have been doing as government, what we are still doing, because it's still work in progress, it is to propose the scrapping off of some authorities and commissions whose work is already being done by the ministries. But when you look at mental health, Chair, as we speak now, apart from Butabika Hospital, in the Ministry of Health, we had only one psychiatrist, who was Dr. Sheila. Only one. And she alone, we really need to appreciate her. This bill would not have been, maybe wouldn't have got to this level without her participation. She passed on to Chair about 2 weeks ago. So what we are talking about here is an advisory board. And when you look at the composition of this advisory board, if you bring this to the ministry, we shall not have these people there. The psychiatrist, the clinical psychologist, the social medical worker, the psychiatric nurse, principal psychiatrist, we don't have them, Chair, in the Ministry of Health. So this is why we are calling it even an advisory board, not the full board that we actually know. So these experts will be working maybe in the regional referral hospitals where they are, but they would be able to give us technical advice, because they advise us as the ministers. They advise the ministry on policy issues and others. Their functions are very clear, and Chair, it's to monitor the mental health services in the country, because this is now something that we're just setting up. As I said before, Chair, these services have been restricted to the regional referrals and the national referral hospital. Now we are moving it down. We need these specialists to monitor the services at the lower health facilities, which at the ministry we don't have that capacity. So this is why I'm trying to propose to colleagues, please, for purposes of understanding that the magnitude of mental health in the country stands at 15%, close to 6 million people, and the numbers are still growing. We need a specialized team, and this is why the advisory board should remain. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I raised it, and I asked the minister to give valid justification, and I'm glad to mention that indeed, Madam Chair, the minister has given a valid justification. My only concern that I had, Madam Chair, was just the burden that is already placed on an overstretched resource envelope. And it shows a little more fears that it's not going to further strain our limited resource envelope, in a sense that these are people that have government jobs somewhere. Their expertise, experience, seniority, and competencies will only be required on a pro bono or some just minimum understanding. I stand to support the advisory board. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, I put the question. Chair. The clause 57.
Chair. Right Honourable Chair. Right Honourable Chair. We need, when I looked at it from when she said that this is an advisory board, I got convinced. However, Chair, look at this provision up to 68, where it says funds of the board. 68(1). The funds of the board shall...
Why don't we handle that when we get there? We're still at 57.
Yeah, but Chair, that is one thing incomplete. In fact, I'm talking of part 6. I am of the view, I love the fact that we should have the advisory board. But my fear is, Honorable Minister, if you went back to the Minister of Finance and presented this, that is going to be extra charge on the consolidated fund in terms of money appropriated from here.
Was there no certificate of financial implications? I put
in the spirit of the mergers.
57 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Aye. Ayes have it.
Clause 58.
No, the question that clause 58 do stand part of the bill.
Motion.
58.
Madam Speaker, motion here.
Clause 58.
Clause 58.
Motion.
Switch off. Clause 58. Composition of the board. Clause 58 is amended A by substituting in subclause 1 for the word 10, the word 6, so that it reads, justification, a smaller board is more efficient and easier to manage financially. B, by substituting clause 3 with the following, the members shall include A, the chairperson, B, the Director General of Medical Services or his or her representatives, C, a consultant psychiatrist, D, a police officer at the rank of Commissioner of Police, E, a mental health service user nominated by the recognized or duly registered associations for mental health service users, F, a representative from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and G, a lawyer specialized in human rights advocacy nominated by Uganda Law Society. Justification is to ensure relevancy of the members of the board through their experience. C, by substituting subclause 4 with the following, the National Mental Health Coordinator shall be an ex-officio member and secretary of the board. D, by substituting subclause 5 with the following, the chairperson and members referred to in subsection 3, C and E shall be appointed by the minister, who shall, in making of the appointments, take into consideration the principle of equal opportunity and gender. Justification to ensure gender and equity in the making of appointments. E, by substituting subclause 6 with the following. The member referred to in subsection 3C shall be nominated by the Minister of Internal Affairs. Justification, the Minister for Internal Affairs supervises the police.
Chairperson.
Yes,
Madam Chair, I'm first seeking for clarification because I heard like the chairperson of the committee was saying that he's moving the composition from 10 to 6 and doing away with the representative of the users. Chairperson, I seek clarification first. Yeah.
Honorable Chair, the Honorable Safia has not read subsection E where mental health service users are nominated by a recognized or duly registered association for mental health service users. So the users are represented.
That is where my point is. Excuse me, Chairperson. Excuse me, members. If the chairperson of the committee is saying that we have one representative from the mental health users nominated by the mental health service users organizations, for me, Chairperson, I thought that this representation needed gender balance because automatically, when it is only one representative, generally the men will take over this.
Yes, Honorable Augan, what is?
Right, Honorable Chair. I have looked at most of the members. They have over-contributed. I look at the time. It has gone beyond 7. I look at what is remaining. The work is too much still. Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, when you look at where we have reached now, this is the most critical part of this bill. We need to handle it when we are totally fresh, and therefore I want to move a motion without notice that, Madam Chair, you do adjourn the House. We come back and start from where we have left, when we are fresh, and really, so that we make something better for this country. Otherwise, we might make many mistakes. I beg to move.
Okay, Minister.
Madam.
Motion first resume.
Madam Chair, before she comes, maybe?
No.
Motion for the House to resume.
Chair, the motion was not seconded. Nobody seconded his motion. What we are left with, Chair, are really not very serious issues. I want to suggest that we complete this committee stage.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would encourage colleagues to really mind about your commitment, that you can stay in one place all this time. And I've had the chance really to look at the unfinished business, Madam Chair. They lay under literally the declaratory statements of intent or that do not require specific applications. Boards are boards, and we have the rules and regulations that govern these boards. So there is nothing really specifically much that is left in this bill that we should, again, into time, tomorrow that will handle or deal with something else. So, Madam Chair, I ask that you persevere for a little bit for us to get this bill out of the way so that we have something new and pressing tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Members, I put the question, clause 58 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Amendment 56.
Clause 58 as amended.
I put the question that clause 58
Chair.
has amended. Do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 59.
Clause 59.
Clause 59. Tenure of the board. Clause 59 is amended by substituting a subclause 1 with the following. The chairperson and members of the board, except those in subsection 3B and subsection 4, shall hold office for 4 years and are eligible for reappointment for another term. Justification for clarity as to the term of office of the different directors of the board, of the different members of the board.
Members put the question. Oh, should I have it?
Chair, I think I want to propose that we maintain the 3 years as proposed in the bill for one simple reason, that this is standard practice for most of the boards that we have been appointing at cabinet level. So 3 years, but renewable. For one further term.
Put the question that clause 59 do stand part of the bill.
Madam Chair, just a little. Excuse me.
Clause 60.
Madam Chair.
60.
I put the question that clause 60 do stand
60,
part of
Chairperson.
the bill. 60?
60. Chairperson, I wanted to propose that 60B monitor the implementation of this act and present annual reports to Parliament on the status of this implementation.
The board to present to Parliament?
No. Madam Chair.
Chairperson, point. Chairperson, the picture which is depicted here in Parliament today is rosy, but the problems people with mental illness face down there in the communities is so big. First of all, they don't have enough medication. The type of medicines they want are normally not included on the list of the essential drugs in this country.
But
and
Honorable Narure, are you creating an authority which will report directly to the House? This is a board in the...
But we are talking about implementation, so how are we going to check the status of implementation of this
through the policy statements? I now put the question that clause 60 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Madam Chair, just something very
clause
small.
61.
Yeah.
I put the question that clause 61 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 62.
Put the question that clause 62 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 63.
Madam Chair.
Put the question that clause 63 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 64.
Put the question that clause 64 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 65.
Put the question that clause 65 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 66.
Put the question that clause 66 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Chair, there's amendment here.
Clause 67.
Chair, procedure
I put
here.
the question that clause 67 do stand part of the bill. Those
Chair,
in favor say aye, the contrary
amendment
no.
on 66, Chair.
Ayes have it.
Clause 68.
Okay, Honorable Nyorachi.
No, thank you, Chair. Chair, when you read 66.3, and we have it, the purposes of this, for the purposes of this section, a mental health tribunal shall investigate and arbitrate or advise on a complaint referred to the board by a patient, a personal representative. First of all, reference to the board, to refer to the board, already is self-defeating. 2, a tribunal reviews decisions in relation to the rights of patients under this act. So, Right Honorable Chair, my amendment for 66.3 would be that for the purposes of this section, a mental health tribunal shall review, investigate, arbitrate, or advise on complaint referred to the tribunal by a patient, a personal representative, a relative, or a concerned person concerning the treatment of the patient, and where necessary, take or recommend. Now, my problem is, are you going to recommend to the board? Actually, the decision of the tribunal is subject now to the person who receives it. who wants right is independent. So I can go to appeal, or I can challenge it under the court of law. Chair, the reason here is, if we tie it to the board, which is an administrative body, then the rights of members, actually safeguard of patients under this law, is already compromised.
Propose.
So my proposal here should be, if we are done with the fact that the complaint will be referred to the tribunal, and we have added the word review. Now, therefore, concerning the treatment of the patient, instead of talking of the treatment of the patient, we should say concerning decisions made in relationship to the rights of a patient under this act. Yes, so that we delete right from, we don't need to mention treatment because there's so many other rights, even when you're not well assessed. When you are received, you are assessed, you are treated, you are admitted, you are discharged, or you are under community CTO, that is community treatment order. So once we limit it only to treatment, how about somebody who is under, somebody who is a suspect who has been taken by the police officer for his mental status to be assessed? What is his right? Or a normal person who has been arrested by a violation of powers by the police officer who arrests me as a member of parliament. So I think here, let's not talk of treatment. Let's just talk of decision, any decision made in relationship to the right of a person under this act, whether he's a patient or is not the patient, a normal person who is arrested and has been framed to be a patient. So when we use the word patient, and we talked about right, and basically right honorable chair and the members, actually, mental health appeal tribunal, international standard, is about safeguards of rights of persons.
Can you propose what you want us to enact?
For the purposes of this section, a mental health tribunal shall review, investigate, and arbitrate or advise on a complaint referred to the tribunal by a person whose right, a person whose right under this act, now in relation to decisions made in relationship to rights of the person under this act. I don't know whether it makes sense. I will repeat.
Madam Chair, excuse me. Madam Chair, I was pleased with your flow of speed. Your flow of speed was really perfect. Yeah, I only want to draw my senior colleague, Honorable Joshua, to 67. And tribunals are just an international practice. There is nothing much or nothing new we can introduce in this particular one, because a tribunal is tribunal regardless of scope and range or even jurisdiction. What it's trying to draw attention to is already catered for under 67 appeals. But just wait a minute. Can I introduce this? Madam Speaker, you ruled during one of those bill processing sessions that we should, I introduced it, I brought it on the floor that we should be very clear that every commission, agency, authority, or board should factor in gender. Because you find situations where 8 members on a particular board are males, or 6 are males, only 2 are females. Madam Speaker, they are confronted during the execution of their duties and responsibilities with matters that have gender dimension. that focuses on the female. And some of these boards, as you know, Madam Chair, are supposed to take a vote. And I would...
But is that under 66.3?
No, I was saying under the composition, the legal team should factor in. Not now, Madam Chair.
It's been done already. Honour members, please, we've done it already.
Chair, I've drafted.
67.
Chair, I have drafted it, and it's like this. For the purposes of this section, a mental health tribunal shall review, investigate, and arbitrate or advise on complaint referred to the tribunal by a person in connection to decision made in relationship to the right of the person under this act, so that it caters for a person who has been framed as mentally ill, somebody who is actually mentally ill, and any person who gives complaint, who probably any decision under this act violates his right. So, Right Honourable Chair, in that way, it cures it. My problem with the 67, where he's talking about...
No, please, don't go to 67. Let's do one thing at a time.
Okay. I restate it?
No. Can you remove the word "and" so that investigate, arbitrate, and or advise? They don't have to be tied together.
Okay.
Okay, Honour members, put the question that clause 66 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 66 as amended.
I put the question that clause 66 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it. 67.
Clause 67.
Put the question, clause 67 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 68.
Put the question that clause 68 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 69.
Put the question that clause 69 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 70.
Put the question that clause 70 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 71.
Put the question that clause 71 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 72.
To this or your other group of amendments? You're close. I'm coming. Let's finish this. Now, I put the question that clause 71 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 72.
Put the question that clause 72 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. Ayes have it.
Clause 73.
Put the question that clause 73 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. The contrary, no. 73? Okay.
Clause 73, powers of the minister to make regulations. 73.1 is amended by inserting a new paragraph immediately after paragraph A to read, to designate and appoint mental health units and hospitals. 2, by inserting a new paragraph immediately after D to read, prescribing the procedure for treatment of women, children, and youth with mental illness. Justification: adolescents and youth constitute the majority of the population and so need to clearly be catered for, in addition to the other special categories of persons who need special care at the mental health units. 3, by inserting a new paragraph immediately before paragraph E to read, prescribing the procedure for integration of community mental health services and psychosocial support in treating and caring for persons with mental illness. Justification: to implement government's desired policy of integrating community-based care in treatments of patients.
Members, I put the question. No, 73?
Madam Chair, thanks so much. But I have one thing that I wanted to a clarification. Now here, according to this clause 73, it now means the minister, we are now giving a minister sweeping powers to appoint, to designate and appoint mental health units and hospitals. Now, Madam Chair, I have a problem here. That now means there are going to be only specific health units that are going to benefit from this law. Because in this case, it's going to be the minister who's going to determine, not the law. And that's why I have a problem. I need to be helped to understand. I thank you.
Honourable members, the role of the minister to say this facility in Kotido meets the standards to be a health unit and gives this, declare it. That's the duty of the minister. Okay.
Excuse me.
Members.
Excuse me.
One additional.
Yeah, 73 part 2.
73?
Yeah, 73 2. I feel segregated since in 2, I read 3, we use the word persons instead of parading up women, children,
what is that?
and youth, as if men cannot fall sick and suffer from mental illness. Why don't we use the word persons?
What is that? Where is it?
It's amendment.
The chairman's amendment?
Yeah, clause 73 2. Yes. Yeah, for treatment of women, children, and youth with mental illness.
What happened to the men?
Why have you excluded the men? Can't men suffer from mental illness? Why don't we use the word
people?
Persons.
Persons.
Persons. Yeah, to have all of us on board.
Children are persons.
We are persons.
Madam Chair, I think the committee was imagining that the men are Alpha and Omega. The committee was in their imagination that men are Alpha and Omega. That means they will not fall sick.
Okay. Now, honourable members, the proposal is that we delete the word women, children, and youth and substitute persons, isn't it? Okay. Honourable members, put the question that clause 73 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 73 as amended.
Put the question that clause 73 as amended do stand part of the bill.
73?
Those in, yes, 73?
Chair, my amendment would be if such regulations is made by the Honourable Minister, why wouldn't a copy be laid here in Parliament so that we know? Because the standard practice here now has been once a regulation is made, the Minister is mandated to lay a copy here of the regulations. Thank you.
You want to add that the regulation shall be laid? Yes. It should be laid.
Yeah, just laying, is it enough? Does it mean it will be debated? Does it mean we shall share?
No.
What is the essence of having it laid if we are not going to have an input anyway?
Information. We are not going to run the ministry from here. It will be laid. If you have an issue, then you can raise it. But to sit here and debate the regulations.
That's the question.
Chair, the usual standard practice is that we bring regulations here and lay them for information of members, except when the bill states so, that we must bring it here, like we had the HIV/AIDS. Because of the controversies in the HIV/AIDS Trust Fund, the clause was inserted and it stated that the regulations will be brought to the House, and the House is supposed to actually make an input in the regulations.
But once they read the regulations, what input are we adding? And I want to remind you, Honourable Minister, we had so much trouble with the regulations PPDA. We are tempted to do it from here. It took almost 7 months.
Yeah, Chair, the standard practice where there are no controversies that we simply lay. But unless otherwise stated, like I'm just drawing the attention of the members for the HIV/AIDS Trust Fund, because there were issues there that the money would be used for workshops and other things. So Parliament wanted to make sure that the regulations were in conformity with the Act as passed, and that's why we brought it here. But otherwise, standard practices, we just lay them.
So, Honourable members, the regulations will be laid. If you find issues, then you can raise an issue on that area. Not the plenary sitting, okay, regulation number 1, and so, no. Okay, Honourable members, I put the question that a new clause be added as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. I serve it.
Clause 73 as amended.
I put the question that was 73 as amended. Do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 74.
No, I want to now invite Honorable Carter to make his proposals before we go to clause 74.
The Chair, I'm proposing to introduce a clause, independent clause, under the miscellaneous on independent mental health advocates, where it will state that the board shall make such arrangements as it deems fit to allow establishment of independent mental health advocates. 2, the minister shall make regulations prescribing for the qualifications and licensing of persons as independent mental health advocates. And 3, for the purposes of this section, independent mental health advocate means a person who is specially trained to work within the framework of the Mental Health Act to meet the needs of the patient. Justification, an extra, no, it is on the page. I mean, it is on page 1 of the proposal which has been circulated. But the second matter. So the justification is that the international best practice is now you have persons who act as mental health advocates, but they must be licensed. These persons give all the care, protection. For example, if a mentally ill person is also disabled, who is deaf, you may not have to charge it on government, but this person provides the services for that person. And they may not be necessarily established under the government structures. It can be any group of persons, professionals who are willing to do that work, but they must be licensed. So the terms and conditions of the licenses will be set by the board. So it is an extra safeguard for mental health persons. Thank you.
So this is the text. Okay.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair. I'm mindful of the fact that this is a bill, Madam Chair, that we're processing. And the moment we pass this, it's going to be translated into an act or a law. I'm just struggling, and I want to be helped by my senior colleague, Honorable Joshua. What could be the purpose for this importation? Because the law this bill has already captured the tribunal. And now the moment we introduce new arrivals like basic mental health services and then independent mental health advocates, Madam Chair, this is not the first bill to be processed here. And I would rather that this House takes the burden not to quickly adopt this, because it might introduce a precedent that in the future might find a lot of difficulty in. I'd rather that you subject this to further legal interpretation and try to ascertain how much room or space we have within our legal regime and legal system to absorb this. Because I know where my senior brother is coming from. A practice that is applied somewhere, and I want to adopt it here. And I would encourage him really to explore the difficulty in doing this, because we have to make sure that this is aligned to our pressing and emerging issues in relation to legal systems and legal regimes. I'm sorry, I think this may not really apply, because it introduces a lot of complication that would have future legal interpretations, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Chair, I don't see the importance of this in this bill. We have so many advocates for NCDs, for even malaria and so on. Chair, the work of the advocates is similar to the civil society organizations. Yes, we cannot have the board making such arrangements to allow for establishment of these mental health advocates. They can operate outside the ministry, just like we have the civil societies and NGOs. So I don't see why we should now bog down ourselves, because it's putting an additional task to us to make regulations prescribing for the qualifications and licensing of these independent mental health advocates. Chair, I want to suggest that let those who wish to complement our efforts in this mental health, as, by the way, it's already there. There are several organizations that have been doing this advocacy
Chair,
work for mental health. So, Chair, I want to propose that this proposal by Honorable Nyuarat should not be accepted.
Chair.
Madam Chair, I listened to Honorable Atkins Karshabe here, and I felt that it would be proper to toe the line that he has suggested. Let us give time so that we understand exactly what the Honorable Member is trying to propose here. I would rather suggest we go on with what we are doing. Let's first leave this. These acts of whatever can be amended in the future. So we can study it. Let's first pass this law the way we are trying to. We first do a study. Where it is necessary, we shall do what? An amendment. It's not cast on to stone. So it can happen.
Chair, thank you. Chair, other than the phrasing of independent, I would like to support the idea of having mental health advocates, because I'm looking at a situation whereby you're having a group of people looking at the rights and interests of the patients, the mental patients. Maybe what I would propose, right on Chair, is that if we find it difficult to constitute an independent board of these mental health advocates, then let's have these mental health advocates represented in the advisory board, because already there we have got a group which is very amorphous, a group which is called the health users, mental health users organization, which I don't know who these ones are and what they represent, because everybody is a mental user, health service user. So I don't know this group called mental health users as organizations who are being represented in the advisory board. Yet these health advocates are the people who really, these are activists who are interested in the rights and the care of mental patients. So,
Honourable members,
information, Chairperson.
I'm seeing some difficulty here
Chairperson.
to ask this board in the government to move into the arena of the NGOs and supervise there and organize there. This is what this proposal is saying.
Chairperson, can I give information? Chairperson.
Yes.
Okay, Chairperson, I'd like to inform this August House that even during the development of this bill, the committee worked hand in hand with such organizations of the users. That's why you see a provision under the composition of the board recognizing representative or a representative of the users. And that's where I was arguing to have gender balance in representation. Persons, the users, are already organized in an organization, and they have an umbrella organization called Mental Health Uganda. And under that umbrella organization, there are other organizations. So the structure is there, Chairperson.
You know, I'm addressing the proposals here. The board shall make arrangements as it deems fit to allow establishment of independent mental health advocates. Really? You sit here and then you can't organize there.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Chair, they're shooting me when I'm here to explain what I mean. They need to understand. It's for their benefit. Really.
Will I come after him or I come before him?
They want to
so that he's able to give a comprehensive.
He has made a proposal. Speak to it, and then he'll come.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Madam Chair, it is an international practice that a bill under or at this stage has got to have a clear framework and definition of what the rights, duties, responsibilities, and obligations of the people support to enforce this bill support to be in place and help facilitate the enforcement. Madam Chair, the reason, these are great ideas, superb ideas. But my only thing is that they don't apply in here. They're not supposed to be consumed in this particular process because they will serve one purpose, to distort the flow and scope of the entire bill. And this is...
Chair, I think the Honorable Atkins is so exposed, but he did not address his mind to the varieties of different mental health acts that we have internationally, and is distorting information that these independent mental health advocates are going to distort the administration and, you know, the whole act if passed into law. When actually what these, you know, mental health advocates are going to do are simple: to ensure that decisions made in the care and treatment and handling of patients are done according to the act. In a nutshell, Chair, I'm giving you a practical example, Chair. Imagine a situation where you are denied access to record.
Now, Honorable Carter, will they be coming to a board to say we are demanding this, you have not done this? How will they come to the board?
Now, the thing is, Chair, they are going to be licensed. Once they are licensed, they operate according to the terms. That's why we said the board shall ensure establishment, shall license them, and shall put down. Because, for example, Chair, right now, for a fact, if you ask my honorable colleague for disability there, it is at the best interest of the authorities at Bitabuka to deny you access for whatever reason, even to deny you information on the type of medicine that your relative is consuming. Now, these mental health advocates will precisely ensure that the way you are handled under the Act is as the Act prescribes. It is to check on excesses, even of the tribunal. It is really...
In that case, there is a body called the NGO board, which is responsible for clearing these people, giving them licenses. It cannot be the government.
Madam Chair, I think we are at your mercy right now for one reason. It comes from the academia. I know where all of this is coming from, and I'm saying it is not for this session. There are already systems and processes that cater for this kind of thing. We're trying to say, let us stick to the process, because the moment we lose it at this stage of process, then we're going to contradict or cause a lot of complications in finding or executing the product. Madam Speaker, the moment we lose clarity and precision in bill processing, we're going to overwhelm the enforcers with what they can, with execution. They're going to have problems with execution, and that's the reason why I'm saying this can be catered elsewhere, but not in the bill. Yeah.
Honorable Carter, I understand what you are saying. It is important, but it does not fit in this bill. You cannot have any GO work inside the bill to be organized by the government. Other members, I put the question that clause 74 do stand part of the bill. 74. 74.
Clause 74, repeal. Clause 74 is amended by substituting the clause with the following. The following laws are repealed: Mental Treatment Act, Cap 279, and B, Justification of Administration of Estates of Persons of Unsound Mind, Act, Cap 155. Justification: the procedure of dealing with the estate of the persons of unsound mind has been incorporated in the bill.
The members have put the question that clause 74 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 74 is amended.
I put the question that clause 74 is amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 75.
75, Honorable Chair. 75.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clause 75, saving provisions. Clause 75 is amended by substituting the clause with the following. 1. The provisions of this Act and any regulations made under it shall apply to a person received or admitted to a mental health facility or otherwise dealt with under the Mental Treatment Act, Cap 279, as if that person were admitted or dealt with under this Act. 2. A building appointed by the minister as a mental hospital under the Mental Treatment Act, Cap 279, shall be deemed to be a mental health unit under this Act. 3. Movable and immovable properties in use by mental health facilities under the Mental Treatment Act, Cap 279, shall on the commencement of this Act be considered properties under this Act. 4. Staff of mental health facilities under the Mental Treatment Act, Cap 279, shall on the commencement of this Act be considered to be staff of mental health units or health units created under this Act. 5. Any action taken or documents executed under the administration of the Estates of Persons of Unsound Mind Act, Cap 155, which is subsisting at the date of commencement of this Act, is deemed to be an act taken under this Act. Justification: to protect property, staff, action, or documents executed under the Mental Treatment Act and Administration of Estates of Persons of Unsound Mind Act, since they are repealed by this Act.
Right Honourable Chair.
Yes, Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. On clause 2, 75, clause 75, sub-clause 2, I propose that where we say a building appointed by the minister, we replace it with a place appointed, because in some places a building may not exist, but a gazetted place or a cordoned off place, like fenced off, kind of, other than saying a building, this we can say a place. I so propose.
You cannot appoint a tree to be a mental health unit.
No. Madam Chair. Okay.
Right Honourable Chair, actually I'm also on the same too. By our system, right from parish to district level, regional, national, we have all these systems in place. Now, when we say a building appointed by the minister as a mental hospital under the Mental Treatment Cap, rather Act Cap 279 shall be deemed to be mental health unit under this Act. Are we saying we are going to alter, if that one occurs, the existing structures, or we are going to have within these structures? I need a clarification.
Chair, right from the beginning of this bill, we're told that one of the objectives of this bill was to mainstream mental health in our primary health care services. And we know very well that primary health care services are provided right from health center 2, 3, up to 4. And it's a policy of government that this health center 4, 2, 3, 4 must be established in all these places. And somewhere also in the bill, I remember we said that the patient should access services in the health services centers nearest to the person. So I find it a contradiction, again in the same bill, to say that the minister shall appoint a building, when in actual sense we are saying the purpose of this bill is to mainstream mental health services in our primary healthcare services. And we know these are supposed to be, so I find this a bit of a contradiction, Chair.
Mine was on the issue of appointing a building. I was thinking, can't we use the word declare a building instead of appoint? I don't know. Is it the same? Appointing and declaring. If you are given an appointment letter, is it the same as? I don't know. So we will think about that and see. Is it the same? Madam Speaker, you have always declared it's Sheraton. I mean, Serena here, and it's the Princess. The parliamentary, whatever, for our business. Let's think about that.
I don't know what?
Yeah, on that one, if we have to maintain clause 75, I'm equally concerned about the word appointed. And for me, I feel the word designated, maybe. If the minister can designate a building.
Honorable members, the title of the clause is saving provisions. So we are saving the buildings that were appointed in the act which we are repealing. That doesn't stop us from streamlining and creating new institutions and entities like Health Center 2, what you're talking about. The Mental Treatment Act of 1964 gave the powers of the minister to appoint buildings. Yes? And so we are saving what she had appointed in this new law for continuity. But it doesn't stop us from doing whatever the law talks about earlier.
Honourable members,
it's not a clear, Chair. It's not at clear. I want the Chair to tell us very, very clearly, when we say appoint, are we referring to existing health unit, maybe among them some buildings there, and the minister says from now onwards, this becomes...
Honourable members,
yeah.
If you look at the head note, saving provisions.
Yes.
Saving from the past so that what was appointed...
Yes, but we are saying it is not good.
What was appointed 20 years ago continues.
Myself.
Under this law.
Chair, I want to refer members to the interpretation clause where we talk about mental health units. These buildings that we're appointing, if you look at the definition, the mental health unit means any building or part of a building appointed by the minister under this act. So what we are talking about, in effect, are really the health units.
Simply, the units that were appointed in the old law continue. That's what she's saying. Honourable members, I put the question that clause 75 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 75 as amended.
Put the question that clause 75 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Schedule 1.
I put the question that Schedule 1 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Schedule 2.
Put the question that Schedule 2, yes, Schedule 1? Schedule 2, yes.
Madam Chair, down there under details of patient, there's information that is needed from the patient, but I'm concerned about number, just above diagnosis. Whereas they are clear with inpatient number, they are clear with the number of children of the patient, if any, but this other number above diagnosis is not clear. I don't know whether we need it.
It is vital status number, number of children, of patients, then number, then diagnosis. So that other number.
I think that was an error. It could be deleted. Number of children, then diagnosis.
It's an error?
Yeah, it should be an error.
Okay, I put the question that Schedule 2 do stand. I put the question that the word number be deleted from that schedule. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Yes, have it. I then put the question that the schedule as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Clause 2. Interpretation, yes.
As a safeguard to avoid abuse of the police power, I'd put the House on notice that we will move that the chair should provide for a form. That should be Schedule 3, where if under the power of the police in Clause 10, the police officer exercises his power, then there should be a form to the effect to fill the details of why, what time you are arrested, detained, and so on. And then the person presumed to be a patient detailed as this, but providing specifically in relation to Clause 10. So Schedule 3, a form.
Have you understood the proposal? What's a new schedule?
Madam Chair, the Honorable Honorach had proposed in our discussions earlier today, that in order to protect people from abuse, that we should have a form that is filled by a police officer at the time of effecting an involuntary or an emergency admission. That
Madam, yeah.
Chair, the forms do exist. And they are actually emergency forms that exist under the old law.
Chair.
Yeah.
The forms you're asking about
for Clause 10, there is
are called medical forms. But we're talking about a form that a police officer who is arresting you under his powers, under 10, to avoid malice, he should be able to keep a record of your name, your detail, what time you are arrested, which facility you are taken to, and it should be attached as Schedule 3. Chair, this is to avoid a possibility. And yesterday, the Honorable Chair had agreed to it. Now, I don't know why we could not provide for it, and work with the technical bench to draft it. After all, the Canadian Mental Health Act has even a copy of that form. Even this, I think the Ugandan Health Act of 1964 should be having that copy of a similar form. So to avoid an abuse.
The form is there in the old act, therefore it is still there. We don't need a new form. If it's there in the old law, we have saved everything, including the forms.
Exactly.
Let's go to...
if it's there, we have a copy of it.
The laws are here. If it's a part of the old law, they are part of the new law.
Let me check it.
Now, interpretation section.
Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 2 is amended by 1, inserting the definition of the word assisted treatment and care immediately before the definition of the word board to read as follows. Assisted treatment and care means the provision of health interventions to people incapable of making informed decisions due to their mental health status, especially during episodes of mental illness. 2, inserting the definition of the word community mental health services immediately after the definition of the word bodily restraint to read as follows. Community mental health services refer to a system of care in which the community of a person with mental illness, not a health unit or mental health unit, is the primary provider of care for the person with mental illness. 3, inserting the definition of the word court immediately after the definition of the word concerned person to read as follows. Court means a court with competent jurisdiction. 4, inserting the definition of the word mental capacity immediately after the definition of the word medical practitioner to read as follows. Mental capacity means the independent and informed cognitive ability to understand the nature and effects of one's decisions and actions. Substituting the definition of the word mental illness with the following. Mental illness means the diagnosis of mental health condition in terms of accepted diagnostic criteria made by a mental health practitioner or medical practitioner authorized to make such diagnosis. Mental health conditions include, but are not limited to, depression, bipolar, anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, addictive behavior due to alcohol, substance abuse, among others. 5, deleting the word mental disorder. 6, inserting the definition of the word mental health services immediately after the definition of the word medical health practitioner to read as follows. Mental health services refers to assessment, diagnosis, treatment, care, counseling, or advice given to an individual or group of individuals with mental illness or disorders. 7, inserting the definition of the word mental health service user immediately after the definition of the word mental health services to read as follows. Mental health service user refers to any person receiving either continuous or non-continuous mental health care and treatment services from a health unit, mental health unit, or community aimed at enhancing his or her mental health status regardless of age, gender, social, or economic standing. 8, substituting the definition of the word primary health center with the following. Primary health center means a government primary health center 2, 3, or 4, or equivalent health unit in the private sector. 9, inserting the definition of the word treatment and care immediately after the definition of the word senior mental health practitioner to read as follows. Treatment and care means the provision of interventions, whether medical or otherwise, to a person with mental illness. Justification for clarity and to enhance understanding and of the words used in the bill.
Yes.
Chair.
What propose?
I propose to put the definition of minister so that this bill can have a home.
And do you propose?
I'm proposing to have a definition of the minister to mean the minister of health. The minister responsible for health.
Yes. Yes, Honorable Carter.
The definition, my only, Chair, those are excellent definitions. Yeah, definitions. But yeah, excellent definitions. My only concern, Madam Chair, is where the chair and his team, those that are assembled, that work together to bring those definitions. My question is, where did you originate the definitions? Are they Oxford definition, Cambridge definition, or definitions as they relate to this bill? Because that has to be very clear in bill processing, Madam Speaker. I'm not saying as they relate to the bill.
Now let's go to, if you have amendments, speak to them. When what?
Yeah.
If you have amendments, present. If not.
Yes. Madam Chair, I'm looking at the interpretation of primary health center. And here it is saying, means a government primary health center 2, 3, or 4. Madam Chair, in the report of the committee, they clearly recommended that government should establish a framework for extending mental health care services to regional and primary health centers, and also encourage the private sector to participate in mental health care services. Madam Chair, there are some districts like Amudat. We have the only health center we have is an NGO health center. And therefore, I would like to propose that we include in this sentence NGO to read. Primary health center means a government or NGO primary health center 2, 3, or 4. So that districts with health center force, the only health center force, which are NGO, can also attend to persons with mental health illness.
For clarification, in the report, we made a provision and we said substituting the definition of the word primary health center with the following. Primary health center means a government primary health center 2, 3, or 4, or equivalent health unit in the private sector. So, Honorable Amadat, we get that.
There was that issue of the local authority. For purpose of this act, we had said to be include the police, the local government people, CDO. So, could someone formulate it so that we, for this act, yes.
For this particular act, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, I would propose relevant local authorities, because that would broaden. It could be a church leader or a community advisor. Local, I'm saying relevant local authorities. And also that particular, before you come, Honorable, the other side is, on top of that, or the subject matter is duties. Madam Chair was wondering whether we could marry that together with responsibilities, duties and responsibilities. And then under that we bring because duties we're just like restricting, and yet when we add responsibility, we're trying to broaden the challenge for a community participation.
Just we're defining what constitutes local authority. We're just defining, we're not identifying the responsibilities, we're just defining. You define
local authority. For purposes of this act, local authority includes police officers, members of a local council, religious leaders, and other recognized persons in authority.
Did you forget the local government officials? You know,
I used local councils.
But the council, what about the CDO? What about the district engineer?
But
they are not part of the council.
CDOs are not really local authorities in the local. CDOs are some.
That's why we are saying for purposes of this act, because we are dealing with someone who might find this person wandering, and then he or she says, let's go here, or monitors and keeps on report. Someone with authority. Someone with authority. Yes,
Madam Chair, I would suggest, at least when we talk about a local authority, it should refer to political leaders in an executive committee of maybe a council, and then also to include technical officers of a local government, specifically the district community development officer. I feel that would help us, because we need a clear definition. A local authority, when you talk about, for instance, the local council 3, they have their executive committee, they have their executive, but at the same time, they have a senior assistant secretary. Those who used to be sub-county chiefs, they have the CDOs, they can do the work. So we should allow for that.
But Madam Chair, in my proposal, I had said, and other recognized persons in authority. Maybe if it looks ambiguous, if it sounds ambiguous, and we break it down, but it will be a very big statement. And other recognized persons in authority. This would mean a parish chief. It would mean if I'm in the village that day as a member of parliament, it would mean
okay,
Chair,
members, yes.
Chair, I want to agree, but I want to differ on religious leaders. Chair, these days, we have got everybody coming up and calling himself a religious leader. And you may find a cult leader, like the one we had in Kanungu, who may collect all these mad people, mental disturbed, and want to. And so I would suggest, Chair, we remove religious leaders from that.
Members.
Having listened to everyone, I think if we talked about the local council, then we go to the technocrats, or any person in authority, or any responsible person in authority. It will capture all, so that even me as a member of parliament, when I go to the constituents, I'm home, I am obliged to take charge if such a person is in my area and requires action.
Madam Chair, I would propose that we leave it, let us pass let's pass the work that we're handling there, the amendments, but let us give legal to handle it. Get the right, to give us the right words, they will handle the work. And then I don't think we need really to struggle over this. Because those descriptions, the definitions, legal can handle it for us. We'll finish with this the way we are remaining with.
This is an important part of the law. Very, very important. It's a very, very important part of the law. We cannot delegate the numbering and the structure and this, but this one.
No. A definition? Madam.
It's only that, that's one clause. We can, if we're still having trouble, we can sleep over it. Let's do the title, and we can finish that one tomorrow. It's one. It's only one.
Madam Chair, local authority. It appears like it's not a new concept. This is something that I think we deal with little on a daily basis. And I think we have enough brains in this house at this moment to provide give us the cure. I might need your help, Madam Chair, to dress it up, but this is how really I would skeleton it. The local authority would be a collection of, I'm saying you can, yeah. Local, relevant, because witch doctors call themselves also leaders. Relevant local authorities in a particular community taking care of both urban and rural settings. That's why I'm interested in myself, Madam Chair, to community, so that we don't restrict it to a village, and yet the same challenge could also be in an urban setting. Local authority, relevant local authority, existing in a particular community that could help in the organization and ordination of a particular task. Because I'm saying that, Madam Chair, Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford will provide definitions, but we're only interested in a definition that relates to this particular bill. And that's why I've come up with that, Madam Chair. But certainly, you have the capacity to modify and dress up or strengthen what I've just given. Thank you, Chair.
Now, honour members, there is no harm in just standing over one clause and fine-tuning it, so that when we leave, we're all satisfied that we've covered everything. So can we go?
But we need to define dependent.
Okay. Motion for us to resume.
Chair, before we resume, I just wanted to make a small amendment on the community mental health services, the definition, to refer to a system of care in which the community of a person with mental illness, remove the word not.
Where are you? In the interpretation?
Yes, on page 24. Because he had indicated it refers to a system of care in which the community of a person with mental illness, then he says not a health unit. But we are saying remove the word not. It should refer to to care in which the community of a person with mental health, a health unit, or mental health unit. So I just wanted to remove the word not. Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes the health units, the health facilities do outreaches at the community level, away from the health. So.
Okay. The chair has no objection. That is noted, and then we please move the motion.
Motion for the House to resume.
Honour Minister.
Chair, I hope we'll also come with the definition for dependents tomorrow. Yeah.
Whatever is remaining on the interpretation will come, including also the amendment of the title. We shall do them tomorrow.
Okay, Chair. So, Chair, I want to propose that the House do resume and the Committee of the Whole House reports thereof.
Now, members, the question is that the House do resume and the Committee of the Whole House do report thereto. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Report from the Committee of the Whole House.
Honour Minister.
Chair, beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the bill entitled the Mental Health Bill 2014 and passed the clauses with amendments but stood over the interpretation clause. I beg to move.
Motion for adoption.
Motion for adoption of the report from the Committee of the Whole House.
Minister.
Chair, Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the report from the Committee of the Whole House be adopted.
Now, members, the question is that the report of the Committee of the Whole House be adopted. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it. Yes, hello.
Chair, I had two amendments. One was short with the contempt it deserved, but the other one had not proposed. I don't know, would it be proceeded right tomorrow to allow me to put it, because actually the definition clause is all captioned. Even in the object of the bill in clause 2, it is also captioned to provide for basic mental health care services, which...
You want... Finish that.
No.
We are still...
It will be part of the...
Clause 2 is still open.
No, not clause 2, because we had guided that we needed to print it out and our consideration, had meetings with the Legal Counsel of Parliament, and it actually had no issue apart from the independent mental health advocates, which has been shut down, but basic mental health services as redrafted.
No, Honourable Member, you know, as part of your proposals, creating health units in the institutions of higher learning, in this and that.
What it's doing actually, it's creating counseling and guidance, psychosocial interventions, mental health sensitization activities, mental health programs, employee assistance programs, which even the Honourable Minister agrees with me that in the health action plan that they have and the policy they have, all this is captured. But to actualize it, Right Honourable Chair, because mental health is a big issue. It cuts across, you see, when you're unemployed, it has a mental torture on you. If you are about to retire from job, it has mental torture on you, disorder on you. And I think if we had these basic mental health care services taken as responsibilities of employers, institutions of learning, particularly the other one is about women who are pregnant. Yesterday I was giving you the statistics of the World Health Organization, where 1 in every 10 women or 2 in every 20 have mental disorders. So it would come that in the...
Point of procedure?
Madam Speaker, Honorable Joshua is my very good friend, and he has so many issues that need attention of this House, and therefore require enough time. Would it be procedurally proper that he allows you to adjourn the House, and then we reconvene tomorrow and look at these matters? So, Madam Speaker, I'm here. This is a procedure. I'm here to raise on a point of procedure, to make you rule, whether it's not proper. Yes, to allow you rule, whether it will not be procedural okay for us to defer all these arguments to tomorrow. I think that is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Now, honourable members, I read the Honourable Carter's proposals, but the longer I read them, the more they moved out of the bill. That's why I said they are good ideas, but they're not for this bill.
But Chair, that means finally, there's the short title of the bill. Honorable.
No, the title we shall handle tomorrow. It will have to change to mental treatment. The title Act. And the clause 2 will be handled tomorrow. What are you doing at this stage?
Right Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to advise him, since we are adjourning to tomorrow and we shall be considering this, please look at the proposed amendment under clause 73, if it does not cover what you're talking about. The basic mental health services that he's talking about, there was an amendment, a new amendment from the committee, prescribing the procedure for integration of community health, mental health services, and psychosocial support in treating and caring for persons with mental health.
Other members, House adjourned to 2 o'clock tomorrow.